Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome to Scott Pilgrim Miniatures versus the World. So this is it'll be a multi-part video. So in this video, what we're gonna do is this one, and then the subsequent one, we're gonna go over the second box. We're gonna go over what is Scott Pilgrim and the miniatures. We're gonna kind of go through the rule book, explain how to play it, look over each character board, and look over like the item cards and like how the different characters interact and some of their abilities work, including like those special things that X's do. And then part 2 is I'll go over the second box, which has the rest of the X's. Today this video we're just gonna go over the core box. If you want to know what all the components are and you're not really as concerned about how the game is played, or like all that stuff, but you just want to see all the different components, you can check out another video I will link in the description. So what is Scott Pilgrim Miniatures? What it is, it follows along the story of the Scott Pilgrim vs. the World manga, where you are playing as the titular character, Scott Pilgrim, trying to win the love of Ramona Flowers by fighting her 7 evil exes. So it's a miniature combat tactics game. So here's a bunch of the other X's. So if I just flip to like an open page here in the book, just to kind of show it. So you're gonna do is you're gonna play as these little miniature characters. So like we got Scott here versus Mathew Patel, which is the first of the evil X's. You play on a grid-based tile board. Each character or team has specific boards. There's objects to interact, there's cards to go through. So that's what we're going to go ahead and hop in and look at. Alright, so the first thing we do is while we're looking at the book, it's going to show off all the different pieces. So we're going to get a stage, some different objects to use, which you have to build the objects, otherwise they come all laid out. We have some different dice, a bunch of other different components and stuff we will all go through. Then you have some different, you have a group of hero characters or good guys, which is Scott Pilgrim, Ramona Flowers, Names Chow, Stephen Stills, and Kim Pine. And then you have the bad guys, which in this one are Mathew Patel and his 3 demon hipster chicks. So basically winning the game, knock out the good guys, beat Mathew, they beat the Evil Ex. If the bad guys win, they're all knocked out, and you have to try again by eliminating their health down to 0. So the board setup is actually fairly easy. It's going to look something like this in the end. So let's just kind of set that up as we go along. We're going to do this. First of all, we're going to pull out the big board here. Alright, so Paul, bear with me as I try and keep everything organized. But here we have the board venue. Let's see if I can back up my camera so you can see it a little bit better. It's not going to be perfectly in sync the entire time, but this is just a fold out board. Up there at the top, it'll say what the venue is, the name of it, in case one of the books or guides mentions what it is. And then we basically got to set up the actual play field. Now, while you're playing the story mode, it's going to tell you follow the pictures on the board or follow the setup listed in the guide, how to do stuff. After you play through the story mode, if you want to play on your own, you can literally set this stuff up however you want. The 2 big things are, on either side of the board are these red lines. These are your starting spots. So good guys start on one side, bad guys start on the other. This is just so you know where everyone starts. Then some of the different boards will have different icons on here. So on here they're going to show some pictures of objects. So we have some black speakers on here, as well as some, sorry for the glare, tables and stools on there. So those are different items you will place on the board. Now, I'll place them in a minute. I want to finish showing off some stuff on the board itself. So in the middle here are some lighter tank squares that have a little square with a plus sign and a square with a minus sign. Those are your item cards. Start the game. as characters touch these spots, they'll be able to draw cards from an item deck. Good guys, you can actually use those cards. We'll look over them during this video. The bad guys, you can basically discard a card from the item deck, keeping the good guys from using it, and they throw it, which we'll also go over. Then on either side of the player board for each player has listed as your basic abilities. So we're going to roll dice. They're going to represent how everything is done in the game. So you have different ones for movement and different ones for basic abilities. And then each character actually gets their own board, which will explain how this is done. So while we're setting this up, we are going to have a stage here, which also has some extra symbols on it. And that sets up on the one side here. And then we match our symbols up. So we have a picture of a little drum. That's our drum kit. We have the amplifier. And we have a microphone. What's fun about these objects is, other than also building an aesthetic for the scene, setting things up, things to move around, they're also objects your characters can pick up and throw around. Then we also have our little chairs or stools and some tables. And as we get into the rules on how these all work, we're also going to find out that they're all breakable. So not only can characters pick them up and use them in different ways, they can also use them, destroy them. And then we place our 2 speakers down. Alright, so that's the setup of the game board. Fairly simple. Then you're going to pick what characters you're using. So it says there, set up your spaces. Each player chooses and takes their player boards. The default guys play with 4 characters, but choose to use fewer if they wish. If playing with 2 players, one player will play 4 good guys, the other will play Mathew, Patel, and his hipster chicks. If playing with 3 players, the 2 players will team up with good guys, each playing 2 of them, and the 3rd player will play as Mathew, Patel. So yeah, you can play as different amount of players can play to kind of help share, give different actions and items. Now it says if playing with different character counts, you can change. So over here on the side, I'm going to skip to number 6 quick. When you're setting the health dial, Mathew Patel starts at 35. Then when facing them, the good guys each start with more or less health depending on their difficulty and how many good guys there are. So if you're playing with one character, so if it's just Scott versus Mathew, and you want to play on easy, you'll have 80 health or 40 if it's on hard. If you're up to 4, everyone has 20 health. So that just sets those guys up a little bit. And we'll look at the player boards in a minute. So you gotta shuffle our item cards, keep them hidden. And then it says good guys draw 1 card per good guy in play, and the good guy's miniature on any space behind the stage. Mathew Patel starts on the other side. Alright, so if we want to take our 4 characters, so we'll of course have Scott Pilgrim here. I wish my camera could go back. Yes, there we go. Let me try to see the board a little bit better. So we'll set him up over here by the amplifier. We have Stephen Stills, who's the singer of their band, Babam. So we'll put him there. We'll put Kim by the drums. So now we have 2 other characters we can play with. We can either choose Ramona or Knives, depending on how you want to start out. So it's kind of neat that, like, even a 4-player game, we get a 5th player. So we'll just start Ramona off on the corner. Then we start Mathew on his side. I believe his hipster chicks have to be placed within 2 spaces of him. So you can kind of spread them out, as long as they're within 2 spaces of him. And that sets up the board for the game. Then we have a deck of item cards, which will be all these blue cards. So you're going to shuffle these all together, draw 4 cards out, have 1 for each character, and then you want to make sure you set this aside so everyone can have it. Next thing we want to do is grab our character boards. So each character will have their own different board, which will have health dials up here at the top, listing different abilities, and we'll go over all of these in just a moment. So we'll have one for Ramona, one for Scott, Kim, Stefan, and then for this gameplay, we'll set Knives aside for now, since we're not using her. And then finally, Mathew gets his own. Now, his hipster demon chicks don't get one. There is a difference on the good guys versus the bad guys board. So they have lots of similarities. As you can see, they both have starting abilities, advanced abilities, combos, a level up bar, health dial. The big difference here is on the side below their picture is the heroes get boosters. So if they're not being used during a turn, since it's passive, Scott cannot act, they gain booster tokens, which they can use for different stuff. Whereas the X's have usually some sort of other special ability. They don't get the boosters because typically there's only one or two of them, so they should be acting almost every turn. Alright, so then the last little bit of setup we need to do is we have to take our special tokens here, and we set them up on each character. So you're going to have an XP star, so your little star one. You're going to just place that inside on each character so you can keep track of each character's level. And then you want to keep one of the black little cubes near each character. You're not going to use them for the moment, but what will happen is later on, as you level up, you could earn a combo, which means you'll put it in this spot, or as you earn your different abilities, you will move your other tracker down. So each character gets two of those, and you have them just set off to the side of the board for now. The last thing we would have to have ready is all of the dice. And of course, I stuck them way over here. So we'll have all of our dice set off to the side. Move Knives over here for a moment. Oh, then we have a set of tokens we have to get, if I can get everything out of the bag. So we'll have all of our our boost tokens. We'll set those off to the side as well. And then we have a dice tracker, which we'll use, which we'll go over when we get to that point. So that is, I'm going to kind of zoom my camera down here a bit. So now I don't have my stars laying out or my tracking cubes out for everybody, but that's basically how the game is going to be set up at the beginning. You have your boards out set for each character. You'll have all your other character boards over here with tokens. And then each player will basically draw a card for the good guys. And that's the basis of setting this game up. Now, this is going to be pretty much identical for every single expansion. I'm going to call them expansions. Each X has their own kind of like module or expansion. Basically, it's going to either have their own board or tell you what board to use. You're going to set it up according to how the board has different symbols laid out. Put your characters down, get your board set up. Some missions might say you have 4 players. Some say you might have 1 player. So you kind of got, if you're following the story, it's going to tell you who to take. You're always going to take Scott, unless otherwise noted, because there's like one battle that has you play as Ramona. But I think you can choose Ramona or Scott. So if you're playing through the story, because it is Ramona and Scott's story, you're always going to be using them. And then the other characters are kind of exchangeable. But then again, when you finish everything, you can always play your own games. You can mix and match whoever you want to make more interesting things. Alright, so now to talk about some gameplay rules. Before we start diving into the boards and stuff, So as on the board here, I'm going to zoom up here, and we're going to look at one of the boards. Ooh. And we're going to bring Scott up here and Mathew up here, just so we have a little look at them. So characters can move any direction on a board. So they can move up, down, left, right, or diagonal. That doesn't make a difference. On the outside of the board, there's an invisible wall. Characters can't move through walls, so you can't move off of the board. There are some expansions that add interior walls. It could be walls that will be set up in the stage. And they work very similar, but I'll go over them in that rule book when we get to those. And then, of course, there's all the objects we talked about, the tables, as well as the item space. So the core rules or concepts of the game are damage and knockback. So those are the two big things you're going to be doing. You're going to be, as you're playing as a character, you're going to be using their abilities to do various attacks. So you can see Scott Pilgrim here has Shadow Kick and Judo Throw to begin with. So if I do Judo Throw, I deal 1 damage, which is a little starburst, and 5 knockback to an adjacent bad guy. Or if I do Shadow Kick, I move up to 3 spaces, do 1 damage and 1 knockback to adjacent bad guy. So if I did his Shadow Kick, I could move 1, 2, 3 spaces next to Mathew Patel. I would deal 1 damage to him, which lowers his health. You can keep track of your health. And then he does knockback, so he goes back 1 space. Very simple concepts. And so depending on how many you did. Now, if I did the bottom one where it could knock him back 5, he would have moved back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I can move back quite a bit of spaces, lets you get some good distance between yourselves and other characters. The other thing you can do is if you damage an object. So if you hit an object for some reason, they flip over. They have little. Let me show one of the other. That will crack marks underneath. So then they play flipped over from now on to show that they've been damaged. If they get damaged a second time, they're removed. So you might do something that damages an attack. And this usually is from hitting it or throwing it. So then one of the other concepts we brought up with knockback is because of the wall. So showing in the book here is we have Scott spends 2 guts to Judo Throw on Mathew Patel. This ability knocks Mathew 5 spaces back, but he's only 3 spaces from the wall, so his 4th space of knockback is not going to take 1 damage and stops touching the space. So that's also a thing. We're in a confined area. If you hit someone into a wall, they're going to take damage. And there's also the thing is if somebody's in the way, so if he knocks Mathew back through a demon hipster kick, she'll take damage as well. And then she could hit the wall. And if they both get hit into a wall, it would actually displace them. So kind of to show that would be is if we're something like this. And his hipster chick was right behind him. And he Judo Throws Mathew. He's going to go back 5 spaces. So he's going to go back 1, 2, 3 spaces, hit the wall. He's going to take a point of damage from hitting the wall. Because he hit the demon hipster chick, she's going to disappear because she only takes 1 damage. Now, if she was any other character, for whatever dumb reason, if Kim was standing behind him and we did the same thing, she would fly back, he would fly back, she would get displaced 1 space over, and then Mathew would still hit the wall. So they both end up hitting the wall because he has to keep moving his required number of spaces, but they both take 1 damage from hitting the wall. So you gotta be very careful with all your different stuff there. So that's the 2 big concepts of the game: dealing damage and dealing knockback. So then, how do we actually play a round? Let's move some of our characters back over. So during a round, okay, so each bad guy goes first. They're evil like that. Once bad guys are done, good guys go. Repeat until a team wins. Phase 1, we roll the dice. First, you roll the dice. The bad guys, they roll 2 blue dice and 3 red dice. Good guys roll 2 blue dice and 3 yellow dice. So they share the blue dice, because there's only 2 blue dice. But then the bad guys get to roll red, and good guys roll yellow. Now, this is going to change from expansion to expansion. So you have to actually read in each one. It'll tell you which one they do. For 2 examples are Todd and Gideon each have their own set of dice, and Mathew has his own set of dice. So those 2 are going to use different colored dice than everybody else. But if you're playing as one of the other characters, like Lucas Lee, he's going to probably just use the same colored dice as everybody else. And you just have to share them back and forth. There are 4 symbols on the die. A foot for speed, a fist for will, a skull and crossbone for guts, and a heart for health. Now, some of the other dice, like I say, Matthew's dice will have these magic spots. Gideon and Todd's dice also have different sides as well. So it's showing there, like, Matthew's has special magic facing. Alright, so that's basically good. During your turn, you're going to roll dice, and they're going to let you pick what you want to do. So if you get an unlucky roll, there are 3 ways to fix it. Re-roll once per turn, at any time you may re-roll all unspent dice showing the same icon. So you can't like re-roll everything like Yahtzee, but if you end up rolling a bunch of fists, and you don't need a bunch of fists because you're trying to move or do something else, you can opt to not spend those and re-roll them. Use your booster tokens. If you're a good guy, you can spend booster tokens to move 2 spaces, or use a basic punch, kick, or grab object, which will all be listed on the outside of the board, just as a reminder of what to do with all those. Or a wild dice. If you're a good dice, you can spend any number of health dice as wild dice whenever it takes an action, treating them as any other dice available to your team. Alright, so then phase 2 is we're taking our actions. With the dice, you can move, punch or kick, grab an object, use a special ability, or recover health. If you have no dice, you may throw an object or an item, grab an item, and throw if an Evil Ex, or equip an item. Items are the cards, so any of the cards are considered items. Objects are the things on the board, so that's one big difference to keep in mind. Items are cards. Objects are physical things on the board. So if you're currently carrying an item or an object, you can throw it. Or you can grab an item, or use an equip item. So it says, as a team, you take actions in any order and any number as long as you have dice to spend. You can switch back and forth between which teammates are acting. A turn ends when a teammate has spent all their dice or chooses not to take any more actions. At the end, the good guy's turn. Each good guy that didn't take an action gains 1 booster token. The only thing you can do is equip items. You can't do anything else, even use an item. So, the base thing of what this means here is, on the good guy's turn, they're playing Ramona, Kim, Erica is playing Ramona and Kim, Bob is playing Scott and Knives. So first they roll 3, 2 dollars. So basically, this is the dice they roll, and they can choose to re-roll their fists because they want some different icons. Then the bottom here is just saying, they decide Scott should act first. Now, even though there's 2 players, each playing 2 characters, you all still play as a full team. So you can decide Scott can go first, which is, according to this, would be Bob's team, or characters he's controlling. And that leaves whoever dice left, and then Knives can act. Knives is also on Bob's team. And they spend that, which leaves them with 1 gut left they decide not to do, so Ramona and Kim don't act this round, each gaining a boost token. So when you're playing as all 4 good guy characters, you have to share a team with whoever else you're playing with. So you roll your dice, and then you decide what you're going to do. So if, like, we rolled, like in my example, I rolled 2 speed, 2 fists, and a guts. So this would let me or I wrote, yeah, so this is let me do a couple different options. But again, I could either use every single option with Scott, move him along, have him do a bunch of stuff, or I could have, Kim jump down, get a little bit closer, some of the speed, use Scott to do one attack. You go back and forth. You could even have, if you have enough dice, you could have, one person move, one person attack. Maybe they brought the guy closer and knocked him back. And then you could have the other guy, hey, now they're closer to them. You could go back to them and attacking. So it's an interesting dynamic. Because especially if you're playing on a team, you really have to work together with the other player. Alright. So then, what do we have for actions? Of course, we have moving. For each foot you spend up to 3 dice. And again, this is going to say this on the outside. You spend any other dice to move 2 spaces, or you can use a boost to move 2 spaces. So again, these are always listed on the edge of the board as a reminder. So bonuses. Some characters have speed, guts, or will bonuses. This will increase the space they can move by move a little bit more. So they're also noted by the double arrow icons. So like where our damage is the starburst, movement is double arrows. We also have pushing. So when characters and objects cannot share the same space, so whenever something moves into a space with another thing, it pushes it 1 space. Some abilities can also push. And you push them in whatever direction you need to. But it always pushes them in the direction you're going. So if you're going straight, you have to push them straight back. If you're going diagonal, you gotta push them diagonal. It's a gentle nudge. So if the ability pushes a character into a wall, they don't take damage. And you cannot move into a space with the character if it would push them into a wall. So that means if they're standing next to a wall, you can't move into that spot and then move them, because they can't keep moving backwards, because they have to move in the same direction that you're traveling. So they'd have to move they can't move left or right. So that's basically that. Punching and kicking are basic abilities listed on the board. You can spend 1 punch by 1 will or a boost, and 1 kick by spending a speed or a boost. Each one does 1 damage, shown by the 1 damage thing, or you can power them up. You can power up a punch or kick by spending 1 of the corresponding dice. So like 2 kicks would do a power up 1, or 2 fists would do a powered up punch. And then you gain extra XP. So very simple. Basic punch, 1 damage. Powered punch, 2 damage. Plus an XP. This is actually just very powerful because you need to level up your abilities and your character. Alright. Alright, then next up we have special abilities. And special ability by spending any combination of the dice it lists on the board. The 3 arrows means any die or wild, essentially. You start 2 special abilities, and then as you level up, you unlock advanced abilities. So there are ranged attacks. Some special abilities hit 1 or each character within a number of spaces. So, number of spaces include around the character using the ability, even if there's another character, object, or wall in the way. So Stefan is going to use his mic swing, which is going to hit in multiple directions. So if we look at that, where's Stefan's skills here? He has mic swing. It says deal 1 damage to each bad guy in sight within 3 spaces. So as long as they're within 3 spaces of him, he will do damage to him, whether it's 3 left, right, diagonal. However, he can count 3 spaces to that character. He'll do damage to that character. Even if like an object, it's not a line of sight, it's a visual sight. So like they're showing his wide range with that. And then we have one, so Kim spends 2 dice to use drumstick boomerang against Patel is 3 spaces away along the diagonal line. So it's like, look at Kim's quick here. She has 1 bad guy, any bad guy in sight. So yeah, some of them will hit each. Some will only hit a particular one. Now then, some of them do specify line of sight. Some say they have to trace a straight line from a character. So now this is what can get kind of tricky here, because as you can see with Ramona, she can see all 9 squares around her, but then after that it's diagonal, and that she does have some big blind spots in there she can't hit. And also you can't see through objects. So that's showing in the second picture here. It's showing, it's just kind of hard to see, but there's a speaker right there. So she can't see Mathew because the other demon hipster chick's in the way, and she can't see this one because there's a speaker in the way. So that's essentially saying this is the scenario. Is she can see straight forward to see this demon hipster chick, but she can't see through an object to hit him. So the idea is like the stepping stones, even kind of just thinking about it thematically, is he's swinging a mic around. He's going to hit anything that's in the radius of that microphone. And you're assuming that most of these objects are probably like waist high, so he could be swinging it head high and he could hit. Same thing with King Pine throwing her drumsticks. But if Ramona was using... so she has right here, American Ninja Girl, deal 2 damage to each bad guy in sight within 2 spaces. It doesn't really describe what that does, but she has to be able to see them. So she can't see them, she can't hit them. Like, she can't throw through something to get to that character. So you could maybe assume she's trying to, like, do a quick dash toward them, and she can't, like, dash through a, like, she can't dash through other objects or other characters. Then there's also special abilities that let you reroll dice. So this is actually where this little tracker comes in. So you get this little tracker here. It shows each die 1 through 5 for all the different symbols. Now, it doesn't have one for the expansion, so you might have to just track this magic as being whatever the other special symbols are. But it's going to tell you to reroll your dice to determine their effects. Any health-based dice you roll, as you roll a die, they affect your reroll ability. Before you reroll, mark the die tracker with tracking cubes to show your team's unspent dice. After you reroll and finish using the rest of the ability to reset your unspent dice to their original side. So the idea there is, if this is my dice and I've spent my double fist, and I play an ability that says to reroll all my dice. It tells me to reroll all 5 dice. So rather than me trying to remember what you do, that's where you then put on the thing you put, I have 2 feet and 1 guts left over. Reroll all your dice. Okay, let's see what Scott's new ability does. Gets me, 2 guts and 2 fists, which could be very good for that ability. Then you go back through and reset your extra dice to this. So I have, find my 2 speed and my 1 guts. And it doesn't matter what color dice they are. But then now you can finish your turn up. That way you're not trying to remember what you had. So it's a neat little mechanic there. Alright. Next thing we have is recovering health. You can spend any heart health to recover 2 dice. Now increase by your starting health. And then grabbing object. Grabbing object is a basic ability listed on the venue board. You can spend 1 will or booster dice to grab an object and place it near your player board, or place it on an adjacent space. So you're just going to have it next to you. So she spends 1, and now she just to hold on to it. So held objects are awkward. While holding an object, you cannot punch, kick, grab another object, or use special abilities. You can take other actions. So you can move and do things like that, but you can't basically pick up other things. Held objects shield you. If you take damage while you're holding an object, the object takes all the damage instead. You drop the object in an adjacent empty space of your choice. Basically you're going to pick this up. It takes it off the board and have them put it by your character board just to know that you have it. But yeah, it's kind of neat. So you get a heft around an object. The big thing is use them as either shields, like I said there, to protect you from damage. But it does limit what you can do with it, or throw it at someone. You can throw items and objects you're holding. This does not cost dice. The item card will tell you whether they can be thrown. So this is definitely something you want to do if you're holding on to it. No, I need to perform an action. Go ahead and do it. But maybe like you have a character that's lower health, or you're not ready to use them. They could pick up an item and hold it, or an object, and hold on to it as a shield. But then you want to do something and get rid of it. So it works like line of sight, travels on a straight line. All that stuff. So it hits a character, object, or wall. When you throw an item and it hits something, deal the damage listed on the item card. When you throw an object, deals 1 damage and not 1 knockback. Also deals 1 damage to the throwing object. And then you gain an XP. So throwing objects also is helpful. It's another way to gain XP. So that means you can gain XP a couple different ways. Powered up attacks, throwing obstacles. Definitely interesting there. Then we have the item cards. So grabbing item or throwing item as an Evil Ex. So when a good guy moves into an item spot, they draw an item card. When Evil Ex moves into it, they draw 1 item and throw it. It does not cost dice. You not need to end your move in there. So how this works is on Scott's turn, he does 3 movement to get next to Matt. 1, 2, 3. As he passes through this middle spot here, he gets to draw a new item card. Now he has this for his use. So what they can do with that. So it says, must move into the space themselves, does not count being pushed or knocked back. And you can only do it once per turn. So Scott can't then choose to take another action that turn and move back 2 spaces and gain another item. He can only gain 1 per turn. Unequipped items are shared. All good guys share all their unequipped items, and they stay hidden. So once you first get it, it's unequipped, and that means anyone can use it. So if Scott picks up the item, he can give it to Stefan, or to Kim. He doesn't have to use it himself. Then bad guys play a little bit differently because they don't want the good guys using item cards. Says whether or not the item says it can be thrown, then just so they get to throw it whether it says it can or not. Deals 1 damage, whether or not it says it deals whether or not it says it deals a different amount. And X must move themselves onto an item space in order to take the action. And they can only do it once per turn as well. So basically, if Mathew moved through there, he'd draw the item card. He doesn't even need to look at it. He doesn't even care what it says, what it does. He's just going to, he's just going to throw it at someone on a later turn. So using or equipping item card. You can use or equip an item card held by your team. When using item card resolve a certain effect, most of the time will prompt you to discard it. Some items must be equipped to a character. To equip it, place it face next to the equipped character. And only they get to use the effect. Sometimes it also lists a bonus if it's equipped to a specific character. Remember, you can still equip an item and gain a booster token. You just can't use any other actions. So you don't have to equip them immediately either. And the items are equipped forever. Once you equip an item, you cannot unequip it unless it says you can. Transferred on knockout. If you're knocked out, all your equipped items transfer to a teammate. If you have one, that teammate equips as many as possible. Okay, so that's the basis of that. So we have all our we have our movement. We know how to do all that. The last part of the booklet here just talks about how Mathew Patel specifically works. Because he has some special things. So we'll look at his when we get to his board. The last thing we want to look at before we actually jump up close and look at the specific components is how the player boards, and we've already specified how the different tokens and all that stuff work. But how do we gain XP? You gain 1 XP each time you use a special ability on one of your player boards. Power up punch or throw an object. You track this by moving the XP bar up 1. Scott picks up and throws a speaker bar. Speaker at bad guy. Speaker does 1 damage, gains 1 XP, moves up 1. Every meter reaches its 5th space. So there's only 4 spaces on the board. So once it hits its 5th one, you hit the level up marker and you take it off the board. Return XP star at the bottom of the meter. Place a tracking cube in your combo box. If it's filled, nothing happens. Unlock your next special ability by marking the tracking cube. And then you have access to anything you've unlocked before that. So combo powers. When your combo box is full, you may remove its tracking cube during your turn. Use one of your combo abilities. Since you're using an ability, you won't get a booster at the end of the round. And then we have our booster tokens. At the end of each round, each good guy that did no action other than equipping items gains 1 booster, and you can have up to 4. On their turn, they can spend them to move to, punch, kick, grab an object. You can spend as many as you would like. And the battle continues with the other box. And in the back of the book, just re-shows all the different icons from all the different sets. The different expansion symbols, item specifics, all your different little symbols you might ever want to know. Which is nice to have out. Alright, so we're going to hop in and we're going to take a little bit closer look at the player boards. So I'm going to move this venue. Alright, first up we have our titular character, Scott Pilgrim. So he's going to have his special abilities, so they're going to go in the top special abilities. They're blacked in here, and all the rest have their open spots. You can put your tracking token. But they have the little reminder star, you gain 1 XP every time you. So if you just do basic punches or kicks, you're never going to level up and you're probably not going to win. You start doing your more powerful ones, 2 punch, 2 kicks, do 2 damage. Not going to be as good as special moves, but at least you're slowly gaining some experience. Your special abilities are definitely better. But it could just be debate on what you have available. Because almost all special abilities are require 2 dice, 2 or more dice, versus your basic requiring only 1. So Scott here gets lucky. He has a double wild, so he can spend any 2 dice to do a shadow kick, which moves him 3 spaces, deals 1 damage, and 1 knockback to an adjacent bad guy. So yeah, it's not super powerful or anything. The camera's freaking out here for some reason. Yeah, it's not super powerful at 1 damage, but that 1 knockback can definitely help. But the ability to clear the distance can be super helpful. Because then you could potentially, if he has 2 guts, he could also do a judo throw right off the bat. If he was still next to him, that's the only problem. He hits him, he's going to knock them away. So you have to spend another thing to move. But if he had an ability token, a booster, he could also use that and do a judo throw as well. So if he had 2 guts, 2 of any other dice, and 1 booster, he could potentially clear 3 spaces, hit them, knock them back 1 space, move, hit them again with judo throw for another damage, and move another 5 spaces, which overall would deal them 2 damage, have moved them 6 spaces, which very easily could knock them into a wall, and he would have gotten 2 XP out of it. So there's some interesting things. And once he gets to his advanced abilities, he gains base slam. Reroll your team's dice, deal 2 damage, plus 1 per each fist rolled. To each bad guy within 2 spaces. So that's kind of neat. Slams his guitar down, does like a shockwave damage. He has KO punch, deal 2 damage, and 3 knockback to an adjacent bad guy. If you spend extra punch, you do an extra 2 damage. So that's fun. You get, super punch there. And then it's air juggle. Deal 3 damage to adjacent bad guy, plus 3 per gut spent. So he can spend extra icons or have extra things rolled to do additional damage. Now at the bottom, he has 2 different combos. So what you do is when you level up, you'll put your token here in the... It's probably not going to stay in there for me because I'm at an angle. But you put in your combo meter. That at any point you can spend this to do one of those abilities. and then you remove it the next time you level up. So even after you level up 3 times and you have your third ability unlocked, you could keep leveling up if you had to keep at least gaining your combo meter back. So there's nothing necessarily wrong with not leveling your characters up if the battle's taking a while. But it's also going to be a thing to keep in mind if you're playing 4 players and you're all sharing turns. Yeah, Scott might have some powerful abilities because he's the main character. And you might want to level him up. But if you only focus on him, and you get him, oh sweet, I just kept attacking with him, and now he's level 5. Essentially, like he's level 4, he's got all his abilities maxed out. And then if he dies for some reason, and you still have your other 3 characters, well, the X is probably leveled up just as much, because he's the only guy attacking on his side. But if nobody else has anything but their starting abilities, that'll make it really hard to then take out the boss. I mean, he can go all these cool extra abilities. Your guys are running around with basic punches. So you want to kind of make sure you level your guys up somewhat equally. But yeah, his combos are headbutt, move up to 2 spaces, deal 5 damage, and 2 knockbacks to an adjacent bad guy. Or reversal. If any bad guy uses his ability on you, you can ignore it and cause that bad guy to suffer the effects of their ability using the same damage and knockback as if you had used it on them. These are really powerful abilities. And even like I got 5 damage, like if Mathew Patel starts with 35 health, that's a decent chunk, like in one hit. And you have to assume though and for him to get up to there, he's had to at least level up 5 times, or move to star up 4 times. He's had to gain at least 4 other attacks. His bare minimum is 1 damage per each of those attacks. Like even if he just did his shadow throw or judo kick, or judo throw. So yeah, he'd at least have done almost 10 damage by himself to do that. So that's Scott Pilgrim's abilities. Let's look at our next good guy. We have Stephen Stills. So he's the singer and lead guitarist of their band, Sex Bomb. So he has Guitar Smash. Deal 2 damage to any bad guy within 2 spaces. And Mic Swing. Deal 1 damage to each bad guy within sight within 3 spaces. So yeah, Guitar Smash would do kind of like his bass slam. Do damage straight to somebody, and then Mic Swing will hit in a wider range. So now there's a trade-off between those two. He has a little bit more damage or a little bit more range to hit stuff, where Scott only does a single person, but Scott has all that knockback. So there's a difference on when and who you need to use. His advanced abilities, his Band Leader, double the damage on the next ability used by a good guy except for combos. So that's kind of fun. A support ability. Rift Drift. Move 3 spaces, deal 1 damage, 1 knockback to an adjacent bad guy. If you spent an extra guts, deal 1 extra damage. And I Want a Super Burrito, deal 3 damage and 1 knockback to any bad guy in sight. So I'm guessing that's probably like a burp attack or something like that. That's the idea. And Rift Drift is him sliding up, very thematic. His combo is Encore. Use any good guy's unlocked ability, dealing triple attack. You still gain 1 XP for using this ability. So it's kind of cool. He can actually use that to gain some extra things, but he can reuse anybody else's ability. So that's definitely a neat effect that he has. Alright, then we have our third member of the band, the drummer, Tim Pine. She gets Drumstick Boomerang, deal 1 damage to any bad guy in sight, and Drumstick Smackdown, deal 1 damage plus 2 per extra fist spent to an adjacent bad guy. She gets to spend some extra right off the bat. So that's kind of cool. Then her advanced abilities are Keep the Beat Down, deal 2 damage to an adjacent bad guy. Symbol Smash. Deal 2 damage and 1 knockback to each bad guy within 3 spaces. And Snare Drum Bowlover. Deal 3 damage to any bad guy in sight. So she has a lot of ranged attacks. This is kind of neat. You get some different things. Scott's up close. Kim's kind of ranged. And Stefan's kind of in the middle. He's got a little bit of he's a little bit more also ranged, but he's got some like good support abilities. So now Kim also has 2 combos. She has We Are Sex Bomb 1, 2, 3, 4 as she starts getting ready to play. Each good guy immediately uses 1 unlocked music note ability, if any. So yeah, that is really cool. And look at our second one. It's a Cell Phone of Power. Take each good guy and place them adjacent to you. So it's a neat support. So either she can force everyone to use an extra ability, or she can bring everyone next to you. So that could be very helpful as well. So now this musical note, we're going to look at her. She has 2 of them here. She has Keep the Beat Down and Symbol Smash. So it lets her also use one of those. That's a really powerful combo ability. Stefan has one on his Rift Drift, but he also has Guitar Smash and Mic Swing for his top 2 abilities. And Scott Pilgrim has one on his Bass Slam. So if you're playing with these 3, Kim can be very powerful with that extra attack. But if you're not using those characters, I don't think anybody else has a musical instrument ability. Alright, then we have our 4th good guy. We have Ramona Flowers, specifically titled Ninja Delivery Girl, because there are multiple versions of her in the game. So she has starting ability. I'm going over there now. Move up to 5 spaces. So lets her move around the board very quickly, but doesn't do any damage. But she does gain XP for it. Too much drama kick. Reroll your team's guys deal 2 damage plus 1 per guts rolled to an adjacent bad guy. Her advanced abilities: American Ninja Girl, deal 2 damage to each bad guy in sight within 2 spaces. Subspace Highway. Place yourself in any space with a bad guy, then deal 2 damage and 1 knockback to that bad guy instead of pushing. So it's kind of cool. She can move around the board really quickly and get to different places. And then Razor Blading. Move in a straight line until you reach a wall or a space with a character or object. Deal 3 damage to each bad guy that you move adjacent to. So she's going to be all about moving. I love how all these characters play very differently. Her combo is Subspace Starbag. Grab an object from the board and throw it from your space, dealing 3 damage instead of 1. She can reach into her little magical pouch, pull out any object that's apparently on the board, and throw it from her space, dealing a bunch of extra damage. So that can be very helpful to get around some of the other characters. Then our 4th hero or good guy is Knives Chow. So Knives Chow does have this down here as well. She has spend 1 foot to move 4 spaces. So she has extra movement for spending speed. She can do some quick dashing. She has Scarf Pull. Which also notice she has a little scarf symbol next to hers, kind of like, and then down here she has a little size symbol. So she has some extra different symbols on her card, kind of like the other characters had the base notes. So Scarf Pull says take any bad guy within 3 spaces and place them in a space adjacent to you. So she can pull guys next to you, which can help you do some extra damage or set someone else up for a combo. Swift Kick. Move up to 2 spaces and deal 1 damage to an adjacent bad guy. Size Slash, for her advanced abilities, deal 2 damage and 1 knockback to each adjacent bad guy. So this is where Scarf Pull could be very helpful. You're already standing next to one guy, use Scarf Pull to pull someone near you, and then Size Slash both of them. Or she can use Side Throw, deal 2 damage and 2 knockback to any bad guy in sight. And Scarf Spin, Take any bad guy within 3 spaces, place them on any space adjacent to you, then deal 2 damage to each adjacent bad guy. This is kind of neat. So she's kind of, she has to pull characters next to her and then do damage to guys that get too close to her. And then her combo is, I've kissed the lips that have kissed you. These are always quotes from the manga. Place yourself adjacent to any bad guy. Reroll your team's dice and deal 2 damage to that bad guy per guts rolled. So that could definitely be very helpful. So those are how all the main 5 characters all work. You can see how they're all very different. Then we have Mathew Patel. So he's our first Evil Ex. So he has, on the side here, he has special abilities. He has Demon Hipster Chicks. When a Demon Hipster Chick takes any damage, it poofs. Remove it from the board. At the end of Mathew's turn, place 1 poofed chick within 2 spaces of Mathew. Mathew can spend magic as wild or 2 hearts. Hearts are with 2 health, so he can heal with his magic ability. And any die can be spent for 2 movement. Then he adds Fireballs. And some of his has a little Demon Hipster Chick symbol. So it says he has to spend 2 magic to do Fireballs. Deal 2 damage to any good guy in sight. Also, each Demon Chick deals 1 damage to any good guy in their sight. You may target different good guys. Flying Punch. Place yourself adjacent to any good guy and then deal 3 damage to them. Then place each chick already on the board within 2 spaces of you. So it kind of brings them guys near you. His advanced abilities has Target Blast, deal 2 damage and 1 knockback to each good guy in sight. Then each chick deals 1 damage and 1 knockback to each good guy in their sight. Firestorm, deal 4 damage and 3 knockback to each good guy in sight within 5 spaces. Let it rain down fire. So this is a couple of his now require 3. No one else has had to use 3 symbols so far, I don't believe. Nope, they're all 2s. So he gets some 3s, although they're wild, so it's not so bad. Real Air Team's dice deal 4 damage to each good guy within 3 spaces, plus 2 spaces per fist rolled. And his combo is Summon Demon Hipster Chicks. Place all chicks even poop within 2 spaces of Mathew. So, he's got some very interesting abilities as a character playing by himself. So the chicks are just kind of there to like add extra damage, maybe provide his shields because they can maybe get in his way and block, or distract other characters. But every one of his evolves, or his abilities requires 1 or 2 of those magic symbols. So it's going to make him a little bit harder to always pull off attacks, or at least always consistently. Now, just to show this off, so one of the red guys, we have 1, 2, 3 sides on this dice that are magic symbols. This one has 2. Whoops. And this one has 4. So, depending on which die you get. So, it's not like he's going to run into the issue where he's not going to roll these hardly ever. But he doesn't have any just straight up free wild abilities like everybody else does. But also notice that all his other abilities on the bottom down here are Magic Double Wild, Magic Wild, or Magic Wild. So if he rolls 2 magic, he can do any one of his attacks. The only one that he has to get a specific symbol for outside of that is his Flying Punch. Alright, so we do want to look at the rulebook here for this. It says, whenever Mathew moves, each chick on the board moves the same number of spaces. The bad guys choose the direction of their movement. So Mathew moves 2 spaces left. Each demon chick also moves 2 spaces, but in various directions. So when you're controlling him, you can have, when he chooses to move, you can move all your other characters and you can reposition them. So that's going to be very important when you're paying attention to, like, then when he does an attack, they can do to anyone in sight or what they see, so you have to move them corresponding. So yeah, this can actually be pretty devastating here. So it says, He does fireballs. There's 2 damage to stepping stills, because that's the one straight in front of him. And then each demon hit critic does 1 damage to one other good guy. So you have 2 of them did damage to Scott and 1 did 1 to Ramona. So in his one action, they ended up doing 5 damage spread out. So that could definitely cause some issues. And now you can remove them, guys, just by dealing 1 damage and they poof. And then that means now he has to summon them back on. So if they get spread out away from him or moved around, you can definitely get rid of them. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt Mathew at all when they get damaged. But yeah, every turn, at the end of his turn, he's going to summon any that have pooped. So if during the hero's turn they eliminate all 3 of them, then during Mathew's turn, unless he plays an ability that summons more of them, he doesn't have any to activate. So that is an upside of having to do it. You can spend your extra points. But being they only take 1 damage, you can easily get by with doing a basic punch to them. And not having to spend a bunch of meter, a bunch of special abilities, and things like that. Alright, so the last thing we want to look at in this set are the item cards. Alright, so we're going to zoom in a little bit more on these. Alright, so these are the item cards. So this is the only card that has the pause symbol. And then here will be what set it belongs to. Because as you play through the expansion, they'll have you add cards to the base set of 33 cards. Just because that way, and the idea is supposed to be is that you add a couple of cards that's supposed to be a little bit more thematic to that battle. And then you're supposed to pull them back out. So when I fight Lucas, I add his cards. Then you should remove them. Then when you fight Todd, add his cards, so on and so forth. Although then again, when you start playing your own games, you customize who you're going to do and this and that. You can go ahead and mix and match or add any number ones you want, however you like to do it. So we have the video game controller of pause. When a bad guy uses an ability to make an its effect and then discard this card, they still spend dice to use it, so it's actually pretty powerful. We have Scott's bass guitar, which will show his face up in the corner. It says, well equipped on Scott, your music abilities deal +1 damage. Well equipped on any good guy, you can throw this to deal 2 damage and then discard this card. So this is the importance of equipping cards on the right player, but also might depend on who you have available. So giving this to Scott lets his music ability do more damage, although he only has the 1 music ability, which is Bass Slam, but Bass Slam doing 3 damage instead is definitely not a bad thing to have either. Otherwise, anybody else can just throw this for 2 damage. We have the Armor of Limited Use, armor card level shields at the top. It says, while equipped, the next time an ability affects you, take no damage this turn. And turn this card. The next time after that ability, ability affects you, you take no damage and discard this card. So it gives you basically 2 free hits, which is definitely a plus. We have another favorite character from the book. We have Wallace. Wallace is an item plus. That's what best friends are for. Plus, you need the help. Search the item that can take 1 card, then discard Wallace Wells. So he lets you just find a specific item. Shield of some effectiveness. Well equipped. The next time you play an ability effects, you take no damage, then discard this card. So it's a one-time armor card. Super cool band shirt. Has a star for experience. Instant coolness, gain 1 experience and then discard this card. Now that's the thing, you can have any particular character use this. So, this might be helpful. Hey, this person needs 1 more experience to get up to their level. Or, it could be a case of like, oh, I've been using Scott a bunch and I drew this card. I haven't used one of the other characters. You could give it to somebody else so that they can use it to boost up. Super Sonic Burrito, damage and heal. You can throw this to deal 2 damage or eat it to gain 2 health and discard. XP boost, level up 1 good guy and then discard this card. So this card's definitely helpful again for maybe getting the characters that are behind. Maybe you need one of your other characters to get a better position for a better ability. Maybe just to reset your combo meter. Kim's drumsticks. Well, equipped on Kim Pine, your music abilities deal 1 damage, or you can discard it to throw 2. Now, she has the 2 different abilities, so they'll each deal 3 each. That's definitely not bad. We have another character, Julie. You can't do anything right, Pilgrim. Search the item deck and take any card, then shuffle the item deck and discard Julie. Crash and the Boys. This one's called Last Song Kills the Evil Ex. Deal 1 damage and knock back to each bad guy and then discard this card. So that's kind of a fun little extra card. We have Knives Extra Long Scarf. Well, equipped on Knives Challenge, your scarf abilities have 1 extra range. And then we'll equip on Good Guys. They can throw this to deal 1 damage and then discard this card. So 1 extra range is actually pretty cool. So take Scarf Pull, take any bad guy within 4 spaces of you then. Or her other one is Scarf Spin, which also does 4 spaces. So yeah, just that extra range can definitely make a difference. DVDs from No Account Video. You can throw this to deal 2 damage and then discard. So there's going to be a bunch that just do that. Just discard to do damage. We have the microphone for Stefan. You can throw this to deal 3 damage and 1 knockback, or anyone else can throw it for 2. Nachos. Either deal 2 damage or gain 2 health. Pizza. 2 damage or 2 health. Snare of Drum Rolling. You can throw this to deal 2 damage and then discard. Knives Size. Well equipped on Knives Chow, your side abilities deal 1 damage. So that's kind of cool. She gets 2 different abilities, but then just, ups each of those to deal 3 damage. Which is helpful. The Foot Pedal of Doom will use a music ability. You can deal double damage, then discard this, or you can throw this to deal 2 damage. Stefan's Guitar. Equipped on Stefan's skills, your music abilities gain 1 extra damage, or discard. Now Stefan has a bunch of music abilities, so his is kind of nice, because his are in his basic. So he does 3, 1, or Rift Drift now does 1 extra. But yeah, he has 3 different ones there, so that can be helpful. Now, if you can get all 3 members of the band with their equipment and use Kim Pine's ability to activate, they can do some serious damage. The Canadian Winter Helmet. Isn't Luke Wilson that guy from the band I played a show with last week? We'll equip next time an ability effects take no damage. Turn it, discard it, avoid extra damage. We have Fireball. Well equipped. Once per good guy turn, you can deal 2 damage to any bad guy in sight. So that's actually a really powerful one. Cool Shades. Well equipped at the start of each round, you gain 1 experience. Again, very powerful. And Now Magazine. Nothing hurts like a rolled up newspaper. Well equipped. Once per good guy turn, you can deal 1 damage to an adjacent bad guy. So yeah, those are some really powerful cards there at the end. And then the last thing we want to go through for this video is these cards, which also have the same set symbol, but they're separate. They come wrapped separate. These were, during the Kickstarter campaign, were listed as promo cards that were added. Now, I think, I don't know if, I'm assuming anytime you buy this game, they're just going to be in the set from now on, and they're unlocked to be added completely. But I'm only listing them separately like this because they come wrapped separately, in case there's ever like a reprint and they decide not to add these promo cards in there. So they should, I believe they will, but these were listed as their promo cards. Outside of that, there's no other difference. On the cards, once they get shuffled in, there's no way of telling that they're promo cards versus not promo cards. But they do have some really helpful stuff that you wouldn't have found until the expansions if these weren't included. So we have Pit Stop, gain 1 boost token and 2 hearts, and then discard this card. Since I have some really fun extra effects. So we have Just Shoot Me. I'd rather die than deal with this crap. Take any good guy and place them on any space behind the good guy's starting line. So it's like a super movement card. Deal 5 damage to adjacent bad guy, then discard this card. Watch your back. While equipped, when a bad guy uses an ability, you can cancel its effect and move 1 space, and then discard this card. Hate Mail. Hurt feelings still hurt. Deal 3 damage to any bad guy, then discard this card. Combo Charge. Place a tracking cube on any good guy's combo box, and then discard this. This does not level them up. We have Gossipy Bitch. Somehow while host knows the next attack will equip when a bad guy uses an ability, you can cancel its effects and move 2 spaces, then discard this card. Whip Block. Take any good guy and place them adjacent to you. They gain 1 health and then discard this card. And finally, we have Snowdrift. Place this card on any bad guy. During their next turn, each die they spend to move lets them move 1 less space. At the end of their turn, discard this card. So those are definitely fun. Some extra damage, some movement abilities, some more canceling effects. During the original Kickstarter, these were like being unlocked with each expansion. I think when they were planning on having the expansions all maybe come in like little mini boxes or separate little like expansions, so you could buy each X separate. Because each X is like each X comes with your own set of cards. But then some of them unlock like 1 or 2 promo cards here or there. And then when they relaunched the campaign, they're just like, nope, we're all unlocked. They're in the base game. So I'm not 1,000% gonna ever say that if this game gets a reprinting, that these cards will be in there. They might have been maybe like the stuff that they're selling currently right now could just be stuff left over from the Kickstarter. But if again they reprint it, they might not include the promo cards. Alright, so that's all we have for part 1 of this video. So we went through all the basics, we went through all that stuff. So when we jump into part 2, we will go over the other big box, which will have the other 6 X's, and other cards and characters and all that. But I won't have to re-explain regular gameplay rules. It'll just be to explain, show off their boards, show off their item cards, and other gimmicks and stuff that their boards do. Alright, we will see you guys then. Bye.